The purpose of this webcast is to continue our EXIM Online training. But before that, I'd like to make some general announcements. Those of you who feel very comfortable and confident in use of EXIM Online and how to fill out an Express application, you may want to or are free to move on after the general announcements. The general announcements I'll make, I also will circulate in a separate format later, so even if you're not listening live, you will get the announcements regardless. I'm not recording this part now. We'll start the recording when I actually get into the EOL demonstration. Okay, so a couple of news items. First of all, John Conant from the Claims Department has retired. Many of you probably know him, and I've had some dealings with him in the past. He was with the bank for, I think, 30-some years, I'm told. But he has moved on. And Gene Fitzgibbon has gone into a rotational role and will essentially be filling in for John indefinitely, which will probably be at least for several months. So we wish John well in retirement. We wish Jean well in her new rotation in the Claims Department. And we wish Tom Fitzgibbon well, who will continue to manage the trade credit insurance operations for the time being. The country limitation schedule was updated on July 17th and is on that website. A couple of items may be worth pointing out there, but the details of which you can find on the website are that EXIM Bank opened up for long-term business in the public and private sector in Argentina. Probably not of direct and immediate use to you, but it's interesting that EXIM continues to open up in Argentina. And we closed for short, medium, and long-term transactions in the private sector in Angola. There were a couple of other openings and a number of changes to the notes, both some being removed and some being added. So my advice would be to take some time to go to the website, look at the CLS. There is a document there that will explain in detail what the changes were. Okay, we are continuing, as I said earlier, to invest some time and resources in developing some training tools for EXIM Online. I had earlier circulated an EXIM Online Essentials Manual, a slightly revised version of which will be coming out shortly, thanks to some input that we got from some of you. And I would say going forward, we welcome that kind of input just to make our tools as useful as best as they can be. We're also developing some additional EXIM Online guides for how to report shipments, how to ask for SBCLs, and so on and so forth, and those will be coming out shortly. The next broker training is on Tuesday and Wednesday, August 22nd and 23rd in Washington, D.C. As you know, this is now a two-part training requirement for new brokers. The first session on August 22nd, an all-day EXIM Bank A to Z, soup to nuts orientation, everything you wanted to know about EXIM Bank. And then a half day in the morning with me on the 23rd with the more broker sort of focused orientation. And we have included in that broker orientation a live hands-on demonstration of EXIM Online where the brokers will be able to sit in front of a computer in the computer room here and actually use it. So if you haven't taken the broker training in the past, I encourage you to think hard about investing the time and resources to do that. I think you'll be better off for it. And then last announcement is our next webcast will be on Thursday, October 12th at the same time, 2 to 3 p.m. In the afternoon Eastern Time. Subject matter to be determined and which you will get some notice about in the not too distant future. My expectation is that it will be sort of a product-oriented training that will dive into trade credit insurance and EXIM Bank's various products to support U.S. exports. So be on the lookout for announcements about that. Okay, before we move to the main topic of the day, which is the Express Insurance application, let me just throw it out there for anyone who has any questions about any of the announcements that I've already made. And you can do that, again, by sending in your comments or questions in the question function. So I'll just go silent now for just 30 seconds and see if anyone has any questions. Not seeing anything coming in. Okay, then let's go to the webcast for the Express Insurance application. I'm going to actually start recording at this point, so we'll start fresh and new since this will be posted on the website for the folks who are not able to join us today. Okay, we're good to go. Well, as I said, the purpose of this webcast is to do a demonstration of the Express application on Ex-Im Online. As I mentioned, it will be recorded and posted on the website. You are all in muted mode now, but you can send in your questions and comments using the question function on your screen. I have with me some folks from the what's the correct terminology for your department? IT and business requirements. So they'll provide backup support on the technical aspects of Ex-Im Online. And I have with me also Lindsay Grant from underwriting, who will help us out on the more practical matters of working your way through an Express Insurance application form. I would add also that probably a number of you who are participating on this webcast have much more experience working with Ex-Im Online and the Express application than even I do. So don't hesitate yourselves in sending any comments or questions that you think will help clarify any issues that come up during the call. We also are close to putting out a separate Ex-Im Online Express Insurance application manual or guide that will be coming out very shortly and will fairly closely follow what we're going to go through today. So having said that, let's go into the Express application. And as you know, there's a couple ways you can get started with an Express application. If your customer has not dealt with you in the past and you are not yet assigned to their account at Ex-Im Online, that's the first thing that they'll have to do. So for those of you who haven't even had to do this yet, let's do that. I'm going to now go into the test environment. I'm going to go in as the exporter. So you log in the way everyone else does, except privacy rights. And so this is what the exporter will see. This is their landing page, very similar to your landing page. And so to assign a new broker for the first time, they'll want to click on the Maintain Broker tab down here on the lower right-hand corner. So we'll do that. And here the exporter will be able to select from a list of all the Ex-Im Bank brokers and choose one. In this case, we're going to choose Test Broker, because that's the account we're going to use. Where is it? Ah, I think it's not there because I'm already assigned to Test Exporter. But anyway, they would select the broker that they want to choose from this list here, Add Broker, and then a screen will appear, and the name of that broker will appear there. Okay. So now, another way, if the broker has already worked on an application with this exporter before, they can actually start the application themselves because they're already loaded into the system. So I'm going to log out from the exporter account, and I'm going to log in as the broker. And so here I am, Test Broker, on my home screen, and hopefully those of you who have used Ex-Im Online, which I'm sure all of you have, this will look very familiar to you. So if this is a situation that we mentioned just a moment ago about a broker who has just assigned you, an exporter who has just assigned you as their broker, they will have had to start the application and then save it, in which case you can then go to Continue a Saved Application and open it, and then you'll be off and running. In this case, we've already had a relationship with this exporter, so we can actually go in and start a new application ourselves up here. using the Apply for Insurance link. And what will appear will be the list of all of your customers who you have an established relationship with in Exim Online. In this case, it's the test exporter. So we're going to click on that particular exporter, and that will take us to the opening of the application for Express Insurance. A couple of things also just to remember as you go through Exim Online at any time is there is this customer service tab, which if you click on it, will take you to a gold mine of information about Exim Online. It's rather dense, but there is a lot of information here, and just about any question that you have about Exim Online can be found by clicking on these tabs on the left and drilling down to the specific subject matter. So if you haven't done this already, my advice would be to spend a little bit of time offline getting familiar with that. You might find yourself finding the answers there rather than having to pick up the phone and call somebody, which can be perhaps a little bit more frustrating for you. Okay, I'm going to go back to Apply for Insurance. We're going to click on our exporter again. We're going to select the application type. In this case, it's short-term multi-buyer insurance, which is the Express product. And we're going to click Continue in the bottom right-hand corner. That will take us to this next screen. And here, you can apply for either an Express application on the left side or one of the other multi-buyer application types as well. On the left side, you'll see the latest, newest criteria for Express Insurance eligibility. So that's there just to help remind folks about what the basic requirements are for that. There are links here to fact sheets, but I believe those do not go to what really is a fact sheet, so you can probably disregard those. There is some work in progress in trying to improve some of these hot links that are embedded in Exim Online. So we are working on an Express application, so we're going to click on Start Express Application on the lower left, and this will take you to the instructions screen. You'll see here, and this will appear on other screens as well, a link at the top that can take you back to the screen if you want a refresher on high-level application instructions. And you can also always click on the application summary at the top to see what your application looks like at any point in time during the application process. I do encourage folks to read the instructions on all of the application forms in Exim Online. It's very helpful to know, as it points out here, the information you're going to want to have handy before you actually start the application. That way you can dive right in without having to start it, stop it, go fetch some additional information, and then start it again. You'll also see a link here to the country limitation schedule. Hopefully you've already consulted this before you actually start the application, but this is obviously the place to go to confirm that, in fact, you do have Exim Bank is in fact open for cover in that particular country, in that particular product and sector that you're working on. So that link takes you here to the country limitation schedule page link on the web page. Here is the memorandum of changes that will tell you what the most recent changes were, which in this case were on July 17th. And then there's an alphabetical listing of the countries with the various notes at the bottom.
There's a link which is a little bit hard to find. I think they're going to try to move it, but now it's at the bottom, that link there, I think,
okay.
To subscribe to some kind of newsletter for changes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we mentioned this in the first broker newsletter that went out, that with this link you can sign up to have updates to the country limitation schedule sent to you automatically. So this is where that link is. That's a handy tool. Thank you. Okay, so let's go back to our application and the instruction page. And there are, on the right-hand side, as you see, what we call the, well, I call them the quick links, but these identify the different components of the application. And you can start an application by either clicking on a particular section of the application that you want to start, or you can just simply click the continue button down here. And so we'll do that and click on the continue button. And this will take us to the first page of the application, the company information. You'll see that Ex-Im Online has now established a tracking number, which is up here in the upper right-hand corner. That is that tracking number that you would use to locate and find this particular application anywhere in Ex-Im Online. So good to make a note of that. If not now, before you actually submit or before the exporter actually submits the application. You'll also see here that a check mark will appear in the done column every time that we've completed one of the sections in the application. So as we progress through these different links, you'll see additional check marks appear here. Now in this particular case, we're dealing with an existing customer who we call Test Exporter, who happens to be in the cookie and cracker manufacturing business. But here is where, again, if this is the first time for the exporter, you would identify and select your NAICS code, and then some general information that Ex-Im Bank tracks with respect to the composition of the portfolio of policies that it puts on its books. Most of this information will automatically upload since, again, this exporter has applied for insurance before. There's one here that does not automatically load, and that is whether or not the applicant has any affiliates. And that's probably a good thing because that is something that can change. So there's probably a reason why that is not checked. And it's just a reminder to you to ask yourself or the exporter if, in fact, it still is the case that they do or do not have any affiliates. We're going to check yes, just to make things a little bit more complicated. We're going to scroll down. This is where you can identify the appropriate contact who would be the recipient of all the communications from Ex-Im Online for this application. In this case, we have two, and we're going to select John Smith. Having selected his name, it will automatically appear in the section below. And then in the next section, you'll see that we, as the test broker, have already been loaded. Again, since we already have the existing relationship and we started an application for that particular exporter, it automatically loads us into the broker section here. You'll see there are two other options here, one for financial institution and one for city and state. You should not check those unless there's a really good reason to. But if for some reason you want a financial institution or you want someone from what was called the City and State Partnership Program is now the Regional Export Promotion Program, if you want one of those organizations to have access to this application, you can select them and check them, but 99.99% of the cases that's not the case. So you can just leave those blank and not select those. Okay. So we've completed this particular section of the application, and since we're already at the bottom of the page, we'll click Continue, although again we could have gone up to the quick link and just clicked on the next section of the application. And that is General Questions. And these are pretty straightforward. The first one is, how did you learn about Ex-Im Bank? Again, you're the broker filling this out for the exporter. Reason for application, three choices here. We'll click risk mitigation. Does the company have an existing credit line? We'll say yes. Do you have an SBA working capital loan? We'll say no. Do you have an Ex-Im working capital loan? We'll say yes. Next question is the average total of annual export credit sales over the last 3 years for you and your affiliates. So we're going to say 5 million. You don't have to type in decimals and commas. That will be taken care of. And this will make sure that, in fact, you are eligible for Express Insurance and that you are meeting the 3-year average turnover threshold. And then lastly, do you wish to insure sales made by affiliates? Probably most of the time that's not the case. So I'm going to check yes here just so that when we get to that point in the application, you can see some of the additional screens that will appear that you'll have to fill out. So we've completed this section of the application, and we'll go to continue. Now it's going to ask us about the products and services that we're exporting under this particular application. And so the first thing we're going to do is add a new product. And it will take you to this page. Now you have two options here. One is, in the middle of the page where the cursor is, you can enter the NAICS code if you actually have it. Or alternatively, you can drill down by selecting across these 6 questions that are asked here. The first one being select the sector code. So in this case, it's going to be manufacturing consumer goods because we manufacture cookie and crackers. It's then going to want to look at the next subsector. In order to display those here, as you can see right now, when I click on the down arrow, they will not display. You have to load them into that drop-down screen by clicking on Show Subsectors. And now when we click on that, we can pick our subsector, which in this case is food manufacturing. The same would apply for products and services. We'll click on the link here to load that into the drop-down screen. Click the drop-down screen, and you will find cookie and cracker manufacturing. Again, you could have entered the NAICS code if you have that, so it's good to, convenient to have that with you when you start the application, but there is an alternative and slightly more cumbersome way of getting to that. The last thing you'll do on this page is in the box down here, you'll enter a brief description of the product and service. I don't know, Lindsay, if there are any particular preferences underwriters have for the degree of detail they provide here. The important thing to note here is that what you type in here is what will appear in the declarations of the insurance policy. So whatever you write in here, keep that in mind. You don't necessarily want to write an entire paragraph. Probably a very simple description would be adequate. So in this case, I'll write and
yeah, the only thing I would add is simple but accurate, because if a claim does end up occurring and the shipment was not cookies or crackers, then that would be a problem. So that will stay with the policy.
Good point. So not too much, but not too little either. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're going to add click on Add Product at the bottom. That will take you to this page, and you'll see we've added the product of cookies and cracker manufacturing, which now appears here. And you do have several links here, which you can use to either view it. That will take you to this screen. It will just give you the basic information that you typed in. We'll click to go back. You can update it. That will take you back to that screen and open up the ability to change some of the answers here. You'll notice 2 questions here related to whether or not it involves production of chemicals or otherwise what might be an ineligible product. But in this case, cookies and crackers does not apply. So we will click continue. And then there is an option here to delete as well if you want to start over or you've made a mistake. There's a link here. You can add another product, and obviously you can do this more than once. I think to keep things simple, we'll just stick with the one product. So we're going to click on Continue. One thing you'll notice over here before we do that, a new section of the application is opened up on the right side, Affiliates. When we started the application, that was not there. But when we said that we wanted to ensure the affiliates sales, that added some additional screens to the application, and so we now have a new affiliate section on the right-hand side. So let's continue. And now it's going to ask for detailed information about the particular products, in this case, again, cookie and manufacturing. And we'll start going through these, and we're going to answer some of these in such a way so that we try and expose you to as much of the detail of Ex-Im Online as possible, even though some of these typically would not apply. First is, are these products manufactured or reconditioned in the U.S.? We'll say yes. Are they shipped from the U.S.? Let's say no. Are these products on the munitions control list? Most likely cookies and crackers are not. So we're going to say we feel safe in saying no. Are these products sold to military entities or security forces? We're going to say yes here. Now, if that was the case, in reality, you probably should have, before this time, contacted someone at Ex-Im Bank just to flesh out the specific details of that particular situation, because anything involving the military or military sales could very likely be excluded. But it's always good to check first. There may be extenuating circumstances, for example, where there's dual use application of the particular product or goods. So, but in this particular case, just to sort of check it as yes and see what happens, we'll do that. And we'll do that for the next question as well, which is, are these products used to support nuclear energy? So I'm going to click yes, even though we know they're not. Are the products new? Yes. I think buying used cookies and crackers does not sound very appetizing to me. Are the products used? No. Next question says, do you sell capital goods to foreign manufacturers or producers? The question is worded a little bit awkwardly. It's not a general question as to whether or not you in addition to selling cookies and crackers, also sell capital goods. This question and the following question apply to the specific goods or services that are the subject of this application. So just to be clear about that. So no, we are not selling capital goods to foreign manufacturers or producers in this application. So we click no, and that's defaulted to no. Next question, all made or reconditioned with more than 50% U.S. content. This one, we actually do want to check yes. The next question, do these products or their use meet Ex-Im Bank's requirements for an environmentally beneficial determination? In all likelihood, the answer is no. And so this question and the following question related to renewable energy are defaulted to no. But products and projects involving products or services that have some potential implications for the environment or in some way, shape, or form involve renewable energy are of interest to Ex-Im Bank. And so if those do apply, you should click yes, and that helps Ex-Im Bank flag that particular aspect of the transaction. Okay, we're going to keep going down to the last part of the, this page of the application. And here, this is where we're going to confirm the SBA eligibility and the content aspects of the products and services being shipped. The first question here is, was each of the products to be covered under the policy manufactured or reconditioned with more than 50% U.S. content? And we're going to say yes. It says that the answer to A is no, because one or more of your products contains less than 50% U.S. content. Then coverage is available for the U.S. content only in each product with less than 50% U.S. content. And then it asks, please indicate if you're seeking coverage for products with less than 50% U.S. content. I'm actually going to click that one yes. Again, I want to try and make this application a little bit more complicated. In which case, I think this one would be no. And C is if the answer to A is no, which now we have selected, you may also obtain coverage on an aggregated basis for all products on an invoice, provided that a content report is submitted at the time of shipment. Please indicate if you're seeking coverage on an aggregated basis. So what this means is that you may have on a particular invoice a series of parts or goods and services, some of which do not individually have or meet 50% U.S. content threshold, and others do. there's an opportunity here to look at that 50% threshold requirement on an aggregated basis across that invoice. So we're going to answer yes to this question. There's a final question here, and this says for non-SBA defined small businesses. You can ignore this question. It does not apply because you would not be applying for this policy if you were a non-SBA defined small business. I don't recall if you have to answer this yes or no or not. So we're going to click continue and see if it's going to ask us to click no or yes. Okay. So we've moved on to the next screen, products and services. So this is a screen that will appear because we've clicked answered some of the questions in the prior screen to flag some issues that are potentially sensitive for one reason or another for Ex-Im Bank. And in this case, 3 of those have come up. One is not shipped from the U.S., sold to military security, and supporting nuclear energy. So there's an opportunity here to submit an explanation. So I'm just going to enter some rather extraordinary circumstances, but again, this is just for the benefit of seeing how Ex-Im Online responds to these sort of situations. So I'm going to say, if I spelled commissary is correct, probably. Oh, did I have it? Okay, so a rather silly and somewhat nonsensical response, but it would not let you continue unless you put something in the box. So we've now addressed these specific issues, and we'll press continue. And here's where the information about the affiliates will come up. So this is the new section that's been added because we said we want to ensure the affiliate sales. So we'll answer these questions. The first one, does each affiliate invoice export credit sales in its own name? And we're going to say yes. You'll see that it says here in parentheses, if no, then the affiliates are already covered and there's no need to add them. So again, we're just going to complicate matters a little bit here and say yes. Second question, are the credit decisions of each affiliate centralized with this applicant? We're going to say yes in this case. If the answer is no, you do need to provide some explanation in the box. And lastly, are the products of the affiliate the same as those entered for the applicant? And here, we're going to say yes. So notice it does say in brackets, if the answer is no, there's a link here that will allow you to go back and update the product lists to include the products of your affiliates as well. So we've answered those questions, and we'll click continue. So we've told them we want to ensure the sales of our affiliate. So this screen is going to ask us to actually identify the affiliate, and we're going to do that by clicking on Add Affiliate. And so you have 2 ways of approaching this. Well, first is to select the country. And we're going to say Mexico in this case. So the affiliate may or may not already be in the database of companies that is held behind the scenes. So to find out, we're going to start typing the name of our affiliate. And if the system recognizes some or all of the words that you enter, those names will appear on the bottom, and you'll be able to select it. Otherwise, you can add a new affiliate by clicking on this tab. But let's first see if we can find the name of our affiliate. So I've typed the first word in the name of our affiliate. It doesn't recognize it. So you can see down here it says no matches found on the bottom left. So we're going to add a new affiliate. I'm actually going to call it Incredible Edible Inc. We'll put in the street address. City. Give myself some more space down here. Oh, I chose Mexico. Okay, that's where I made a mistake. So in this case, I actually wanted to pick a U.S. company. It's what I intended to do anyway. So here's an example of when you've made a mistake and you want to go and correct that. So let's go back and fix that. So I've clicked the back button. I'm now going to go click a different country, in this case, United States. I think in this case, you may find that it exists. It is searching. So it turns out the affiliate is actually already in there, as you can see from the list of companies that the system identified just with typing in the word edible. So let's click on that. And then we're going to press continue. Now, I did want to show you the process for adding a new affiliate, as we were a moment ago. So I'm going to add another affiliate. And that's going to take me back to that screen again. It's going to ask for the country. Once again, I'm going to pick the United States. I typed in the word crunchy, and it doesn't find that, so we're going to go add a new affiliate. And then again, we'll take us back to the screen where we can add that affiliate here. In this case, Crunchy Inc. We're going to complete the address. Also happens to be in Atlanta. And in this case, we're going to get the U.S. states instead of the Mexican states. Good. And we're going to type in the zip code for Georgia. Some of this information does not have to be entered. Of course, the more information you enter, the better. But this is the minimum required information with respect to identifying the name and the location of the affiliate. You are required to answer these questions in the bottom, again, to help Ex-Im Bank track the composition of its portfolio. So we're going to say it is women-owned and minority-owned. It is not veteran-owned. Is there corporate ownership, meaning is the affiliate owned by another company? We're going to say no. Name of the ultimate parent company is not applicable in this case. Sales volume, let's say 5 million and 25 employees. And let's see if we've filled in everything that needs to be filled in order to progress by clicking on Add Affiliate. No. Okay. So we do have to enter the NAICS code. Unfortunately, there is not an asterisk there. One of a number of sort of minor flaws in the Ex-Im Online system, which you may find from time to time, which we will have corrected. But it did flag it for us. We do need to enter the NAICS code. So we'll click on that. And we will find it was somewhere. Well, let's say it was breakfast cereal manufacturing, since that's somewhat related to cookies and crackers, I suppose. So let's try it now. Okay, so the next screen has taken us to the Manage Affiliate screen. It's now showing us the identity of the affiliates that we've added, and we can continue to add more if there are more, but in this case it's just those two, so we're going to press Continue. This will take us to the next page on the application, which is the export credit experience of the exporter. And you'll note here it does say that you want to include the amounts attributable to the affiliates. So the requested policy limit, we're going to say, what would be a common policy limit?
200,000.
200,000. Okay. What year did we exporter begin exporting? Let's say 2014. What year did it begin exporting on credit terms? 2016. Export credit sales with an emphasis on credit. Again, this is only sales on credit for the last 3 years. This is the total. So let's say it's a pretty random and arbitrary number, but we'll say 2.5 million. Total export credit losses for the last 3 years. Hopefully none, but let's put something in just to see what EXIM Online does. Number of export credit accounts written off over the last 3 years. Let's say 1. Again, we're trying to make this a little bit more interesting so you can see how EXIM Online is going to respond to these things. How many foreign buyers do you currently sell on credit terms? Let's say 2. Amount of credit sales outstanding. And that, as it says here, this has to be within 30 days of the date that the application is being filled out. Let's just say 50,000. Oh no! Sorry about that. I accidentally knocked the very, very sensitive key card, which lets me get into the computer. Okay. So, and this is going to be as of, let's say, June 1st, 2017. And the total amount of export receivables past due by more than 60 days. Again, hopefully and typically nothing here, but we're going to complicate things a little bit and say 10,000. So let's continue and see if we've answered everything correctly. And no, we didn't. We got a warning here that credit sales outstanding as of the date should be within the last 30 days. So let's go back and correct that. Today is July 20th, so we're going to change this to July 1st. And that did the trick. Okay. Now, we'd indicated in the previous screen that we had some overdue receivables, and this is where EXIM Online is going to ask you to provide some information about that. In order to do that, you're going to click on the Add Overdue button. And the first thing we need to do is identify the buyer who we have it overdue from. And we're going to, again, click the country first. In this case, we are going to click Mexico. And I'm going to type in the word galletas, which is Mexican for crackers or cookies. And instead of going through the process of adding a new buyer and all the background details, we're just going to pick one that is already in the system. And have a new buyer or continue? I think it's
The buyer's already there.
So we click to continue, and now it's going to ask for some details about those overdues. What's the amount more than 60 days past due, so 10,000. Amount of credit sales outstanding, let's just say it's 10,000. Let's say, and that's as of July 1st. It's going to ask you for a breakdown of the past dues by tenor. In this case, we're going to say it's all 1 to 60 days. You do have to fill out the rest of these, so even if the answer is 0, you do need to type in 0 on these entries. And it's going to ask you for an explanation, and there's a drop-down screen where you can choose the applicable option or select other. In this case, we're going to say that it's a slow pay is typical. Notice here again, if you check other, it's going to ask you to put some commentary in the box here. So we clicked on Add Overdue, and it takes us back to a summary screen where it's going to show us the name of the buyer and the overdue amount. And here again, you'll have several links that will enable you to view, update, or delete the information before you proceed. So that's the last and only overdue, so we're going to press Continue to go on to the next section of the application. And here it's asking for financial highlights on the exporter. First question is, does the data include parent, consolidated, or combined with any other entity? We're going to say yes. It asks for the statement dates from and to date, and this does have to span a calendar year, I believe. So let's just put in 1 January 2016, 12/31, 2016. Do the statement dates above apply to both the balance sheet and income statement? And we're going to say yes. It gives us an option to choose the degree of review and audit that's been applied to the financials. And we're going to say that they've been CPA audited. We're going to say net sales is $5 million. We're going to say an operating profit of, let's say, $500,000. We're going to say net profit of $250,000. Don't put a lot of stock in these numbers. These are just placeholders. Let's say total assets of, let's say, $5 million. And let's say total equity of, well, $2.5 million. And we will press Continue. Okay, now it's asking us to enter our buyer credit requests. We're going to do that by clicking on Add Buyer. And here we're going to start looking up our buyers that we want to insure under the policy. And this functionality works very similar to the one that we've already seen. First, we're going to select the country. I'm going to pick Mexico again. This is another company that happens to have a similar name to the other company we identified before. In this case, we're going to select Maya. Again, if the name had not come up, then you would have been able to add a new buyer and enter the details about that buyer in the following screens. But just to not get too bogged down in the details, we press Continue. And it's going to ask us for the credit information and limits that we want to apply for this buyer. The buyer's name has already defaulted and the buyer's country is defaulted. We're going to enter our credit limit requested. We asked for a $250,000 policy. Maybe let's ask for $50,000 on this particular buyer. Requested terms. We're going to select open account. Maximum tenor. We're going to select 30 days. And here it asks, do you have any ownership interest in or familial ties with the buyer? It's obvious of interest to the underwriter to know whether or not there is a relationship between the exporter and the buyer. We're going to say no. The answer happens to be yes, then you just put some text in there and continue along with the application as you normally would. Next question is, will the products be shipped directly to the buyer in the buyer's country? Let's say yes. Is the buyer purchasing your products for resale to another country or countries? We'll say no. Any prior sales to this buyer? Let's say no. Year of your first sale to the buyer? Well, we didn't have any, so we should be able to leave this blank. Yes? Sorry, go ahead and speak up.
If you select yes, then it's open a new screen. If you completed all the required fields, then it's going to open a new screen. So if you want to show that to...
After we complete this one?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. But this is a new buyer for us, so we're going to click no in this case, in which case we can leave this...
yes, we can leave this.
We can leave this here blank. Any prior sales to the buyer on credit terms? Well, we said this is a new buyer, so the answer to this must be no.
Just for the information, we can show that, select yes, and we can fill out the information and we can show the screen to our brokers there.
I'm not sure I followed that.
If we select yes, any prior sale to the buyers on top,
oh, the first one. Up here?
Yes, it's up here.
Okay.
And if we fill out the information, there will be a new screen when we click on continue.
Okay.
Just for the information for our exporters there, brokers, we can show the screen. And
all right, well then why don't we click yes here?
Yes.
Again, we want full disclosure here and want you to see all the different aspects of it. So prior sales, let's say yes. Let's say the first sales were 2015. Any prior sales to the buyer on credit terms, and here we'll say no. Year of the first sale to the buyer on credit terms. Well, we said no, so this would stay blank.
Yeah.
Total sales made to the buyer on credit terms over the last 3 years. Again, we said we didn't make any, so we'll leave this blank. If we had answered yes, then we would be filling in information there. Payment terms extended to the buyer over the last 12 months. Transaction type, we'll say open account. Maximum tenor, let's say 30 days. What is the highest amount outstanding over the last 12 months for which you have been paid? Let's say $10,000. Describe the buyer's history over the last 12 months. Let's say they typically pay a little bit slowly, 1 to 3 days. What is the amount now owed to you by the buyer? See, right now they don't owe us anything. Well, actually, let's make it a little bit more complicated. Let's say they owe us $10,000 now. And we're also going to say that we're 60 days past due for $10,000, just to see what Exim Online does. And it asks us, what's the reason for the buyer being past due to you? And we're going to say slow payer. Again, the more information you can provide around this particular subject matter, the better. And last question, do you hold any security on the amount past due? We'll say no. So let's press continue and see if we have answered everything to EOL satisfaction. Looks like we does. We have, and it takes us to this summary screen. Well, it will show us the name of the buyer credit that we're requesting, the name of the buyer, the country, and the amount. And again, you have links that will enable you to view, to update, or delete them. And so you can repeat the process by adding more buyers This is an express application. You can allow, XM Online will allow you to add up to 5 buyers. But in this case, just to keep this a little bit shorter, we're going to stop here with the 1 buyer and continue. This will take us to the screen where we can attach information from our computer. Up here in the top, you can click on the browser button where you can attach any documents that you may have saved, whether the financial statements, any information in document form that you think will be of assistance to the underwriter. And you can provide any commentary in the box here as well. And here again, the more information you can provide that puts the entire sale, the relationship between the buyer and the exporter in full context will be helpful. I'm going to ask Lindsay, is there anything in particular that you find in practice can help make a difference when they get to the screen on this application in terms of a supplemental or additional information?
Yes, maybe experience with the market or the customer that they weren't able to convey via credit sales or highest amount outstanding in the last 12 months, maybe shipments that weren't on credit, or maybe more general experience about what due diligence they've done for their buyers. I would say those are the key extra things that can be added there.
Okay. Thanks, Lindsay. So the point is, whatever you can provide to put the relationship in its broadest and deepest context, the more information you can provide along those lines, obviously the better for the underwriter to appreciate the relationship. Okay. In this case, we don't actually have anything to attach or to write. We're going to press the continue button. And this is the last page in the application. And this is where basically you would typically save and exit the application, and the exporter would then log in, find the application, because they would need to open this link, which is the application certification, and we'll do that here. You can do it as the broker from your screen as well. So lots of government standard stuff be filled out, but the exporters should read this and make sure they're comfortable with it. And after they do that, they would sign it, print it out, or save it, and then print it, sign it, save it on their computer, and then upload it in XM Online, going into the application from their screen. And then the exporter would submit. And when we do that, you'll get the final summary page. This is the tracking sheet. It will give you the tracking number, the date the application was submitted, core information about the exporter themselves, contact, and probably most importantly, the tracking number. And you can print this document, or the exporter can print this document here. If for some reason you wanted to get a copy of that from the exporter, they can print that and send that to you. So that pretty much concludes the demonstration of the Express Online application. We've tried to show various complications that can arise from making an error and filling out the sheet, to flagging some issues that tend to be of particular significance to XM Bank. I'm going to stop there now, and now I'm going to invite those of you who are still online to send in any questions you have about the application. And so I'm just going to go silent for a minute, and I'll look over on the other screen here to see what questions come in. So bear with me. One question has come in: has the certificate been updated with the correct links? I'm not sure what that means.
Has the what been updated with the correct link?
It says, has the certificate been updated with the correct links? I don't understand the question, but we're not sure how to respond to that question because we're not sure we understand the question, but if the person who sent it in can just shoot me an email or call me offline, I'd be happy to address that with you.
And then Priyanka mentioned there's a way to see the
Submitted application on the screen. We can go to the home screen.
Okay. That's a good point. There is a way to see the summary of the application.
Yes. So,
well, this one was submitted. We should be able to find it here. I think it is this one. So this is a list of applications that have been submitted and are pending with Ex-Im Bank. And I believe this is the one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it.
and they can see the application summary there.
Right. So here you can see from the application summary, and it will give you the complete summary of all the answers to the questions that you have provided.
And they can even see the status of the application, the history. Even if it's updated from internal site, probably they will be able to see that too.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the dashboard here and see if there are any other questions. Oh, okay. The previous questioner has clarified the question. Apparently, there are some links embedded in the certificate itself, which the question suggests are out of date. I know that the folks who are working at Ex-Im Line recently did a rather exhaustive vetting of all the links in Ex-Im Online. It's possible that there may be a few that they missed. So we'll look into that. Thank you for pointing that out. And if that is the case, we'll look into that and we'll get that corrected. Okay, no other questions yet. I'll just give one final opportunity for any other questions.
I can make a comment. I was thinking about the question about whether they have an SBA loan guarantee or an Ex-Im loan. It's fine to answer it as they see fit, but sometimes we find that they answer it in anticipation of obtaining one. And if that is not in place at present or very imminently, I wouldn't put yes for either, because we will validate that and we will kind of check internally and with the exporter to see what the structure is. And so if it turns out that they don't have one or they kind of plan to get one,
right.
So
even if it's perhaps imminent, they probably should still say no, because that might initiate some questioning a little bit prematurely.
Yeah, and they can come to us when they have it.
Great, thank you, Lindsay. Okay, here's a question, and I'm going to defer this one to Lindsay. What are the two most common mistakes you see in Express applications?
I would say numbers that don't add up between annual sales, sales on credit, perhaps overdue. I can't remember exactly what numbers we ask for, but there's often a mismatch, something that doesn't make sense. You know, their total sales over 3 years are lower than their sales to one buyer of the last year. We get a lot of numbers that don't make sense, and in that case, we might not necessarily go back and confirm, but we might take the more conservative number and kind of just assume the most conservative amount. So it would be in the exporter's interest to make sure that those numbers are correct. And you know, like you said, the credit was bolded. It's good to make sure if it was not on credit, then they shouldn't be entering a number there. We would encourage them to mention it in the comments if they were shipping on cash in advance, but number mismatch is a big one.
Well, I think we saw as we went through the application, there are some places where how you answer one question is dependent upon how you answered another question. And you know, when you dive deep into an application on your computer, it can be a little bit difficult to perhaps keep track of all that. And I think that goes to the point that Lindsay was making. Looking to see if we have any more questions. I know we've been on for a while now. I think about an hour, at least for the webcast. Here's a question. How do I get set up on XM Online? I'm going to answer that question offline. We have been on for a while now, and I'd like to keep the discussion focused on Express applications. But if the questioner there can shoot me an email or give me a call, be happy to go over that. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up now. I hope you've found this useful, especially for those of you who don't have a chance to use XM Online very often or have not had to fill out very many Express applications. As I said, we are very shortly going to release a fairly detailed guide on how to fill out an Express application with a series of screenshots that will follow fairly closely what we went through today. So you'll have an actual document that you can refer back to and which will be distributed and posted on the website. So that will be helpful in following up on this particular website. So with that, I'll say thank you, have a good afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webcast. Bye.